Welcome back to WS Gone Wild. We're so glad you're here. Where are you tuning in from today? We always love knowing how far these unbelievable stories travel. Today's story is about a cheating wife. I'm Eric, and I want to share something personal, a story about love, trust, and the heartbreaking moment I realized the woman I was going to marry never truly respected me. Have you ever had someone say a few simple words that revealed exactly how they saw you?
I have.
And in that moment, everything changed. But before I tell you about the instant that made me walk away from our engagement in front of a room full of people, let me take you back to when I thought what we had was real. Because, honestly, it didn't start out badly. For years, I believed I had found someone who saw me for who I truly was. Vanessa, and I didn't have a whirlwind romance. Ours grew slowly over time. We had a history. We built a life together, one step at a time. When she struggled to find her footing in her career, I stood by her side, encouraging, supporting, and believing in her, even when she doubted herself. I thought we were a team. I never imagined that the same woman I stood by through everything would one day mock my dreams, right in front of an audience. Looking back, the signs were always there. I just didn't want to see them. In the beginning, Vanessa was my biggest cheerleader. She used to beam with pride when she talked about my work. Eric is incredibly talented, she'd tell her friends, flipping through my portfolio like it was a prize trophy. She loved showing off the magazine that published my photos, bragging about it like it was her own accomplishment. And for a long time, I believed she truly admired what I did. Photography wasn't just a side hustle for me. It was my career, my passion, my life. I worked hard to build my name, investing in the best equipment I could afford. I captured moments that mattered. I wasn't just getting by, I was thriving. I turned my passion into a business, something many dream of but never achieve. At first, Vanessa seemed to understand that. But little by little, the way she talked about my work started to change. It began with a small comment, one I ignored at the time. We were having dinner, excitedly chatting about our wedding plans, when I mentioned a new camera lens I'd been saving up for. She sighed and said, "You should get a real job with a steady paycheck. Weddings are expensive, you know." Then she laughed, like it was just a harmless joke. I laughed too. Back then, I didn't realize that was the first crack in the foundation of our relationship. Then came the second moment, subtle but clear. We were out shopping when she ran into a colleague. I stood there waiting for her to introduce me. But she didn't. Later, she casually said, "I just didn't know how to introduce you." It hurt, but I convinced myself she didn't mean it in a bad way. But the third time, there was no misunderstanding. We were at home having a casual conversation when she said, "I mean, photography is nice and all, but it's not really a career, right?" She said it so naturally, without even thinking. And in that moment, something inside me changed. She wasn't joking. She really believed that. To her, everything I had built, every late night, every weekend I sacrificed, every ounce of passion I poured into my work, was just a hobby. Something small. Something insignificant. Still, I let it slide. I told myself she didn't mean to hurt me, that I was just being sensitive. After all, this was Vanessa, the woman I had loved for years. She had supported me before, right? Now I know that was my first mistake. I ignored the signs. And soon, those small cracks would turn into something much bigger. Vanessa invited me as her plus one to her company's annual office party. It was held in a sleek, upscale venue. Glass walls stretching high, polished marble floors, soft jazz playing in the background. The room buzzed with energy. Professionals moved confidently through the space, chatting about promotions, investments, and six-figure salaries like it was just another Tuesday. I told myself I wasn't intimidated. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that I didn't quite belong. My world was different. My passion didn't fit into their corporate mold. Still, I stood tall, reminding myself that I was proud of what I did. Vanessa introduced me to a small group of her coworkers, 4 or 5 of them, all dressed in sharp suits and elegant dresses, sipping cocktails and chatting about business. I smiled and nodded, mostly listening as they talked about upcoming projects with big-name clients. Then, one of them, a man in a navy blue suit, perfectly groomed like he'd stepped straight out of a fashion magazine, turned to me with a polite but curious expression. "So, Eric, what do you do?" Before I could answer, Vanessa let out a small, amused scoff, the kind that let everyone know a joke was coming. "Oh, Eric," she said, swirling her drink with a smirk. "His job is basically just taking fancy selfies for money." The room burst into laughter. Not the polite kind. Not an awkward chuckle. Real laughter, loud, unfiltered amusement. Some of them exchanged glances, smirking like they were in on some private joke. One woman even nodded and said, "Oh, that's cute." The laughter felt like it was closing in on me, pressing against my chest. And in that moment, I saw Vanessa clearly, truly clearly, for the first time. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. This wasn't a joke gone wrong. This was how she saw me. To her, I wasn't a dedicated photographer. I wasn't someone who had built a successful career from nothing. To her, I was just a guy who took selfies for cash. And suddenly, everything made sense. The offhand remarks, the hesitation when introducing me, the little digs I had ignored for so long. She wasn't proud of me. She was embarrassed by me. Right then and there, I made a choice. I wasn't going to spend my life with someone who made me feel small. I calmly set my drink down, steadied myself, and turned to Vanessa. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "If you don't respect what I do, then you don't respect me. And I won't spend my life with someone who belittles me." The room fell silent. The laughter died instantly. The air felt heavy as everyone looked between us, waiting for her response. She stared at me, wide-eyed, her mouth opening slightly, then forming a nervous laugh, like she still thought she could brush it off. But I wasn't laughing. I reached for her hand, slipped the engagement ring off her finger, and quietly put it in my pocket. There were gasps. Someone near the bar muttered, "Damn." But I didn't stick around to soak in their reactions. I didn't need an audience. Without another word, I turned around and walked away. Out of the party. Out of her life. Out of a space where I clearly never belonged. I didn't look back. Because for the first time in a long time, I knew exactly where I stood. At first, Vanessa didn't reach out. Not a single call. Not one text. Nothing. And honestly, I wasn't surprised. Vanessa had always been too proud to admit when she was wrong, too concerned with appearances to deal with anything that made her look bad. After that night, I'm sure she was embarrassed. Not just because I walked away in front of her colleagues, but because I did it on my own terms. I wasn't the one they laughed at anymore. I was the one who walked away. And for someone like Vanessa, who lived for control and cared deeply about how she was perceived, that had to sting. Weeks passed. Silence. Then, one evening, out of nowhere, her name lit up on my phone. It was a long message, but the words were predictable. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened. I didn't mean it like that. You know I respect you. I was just joking and didn't realize how it came across. Can we talk?" I read it and sat there for a moment, letting it sink in. If she had sent that message right after the party, if she had truly thought about what she'd said, truly felt regret, maybe, just maybe, I would have believed her. But after weeks of silence? No. This wasn't about regret. This was about image management. She wasn't reaching out because she realized she was wrong. She was reaching out because she didn't like how it made her look to her friends, her family, the people who were supposed to come to our wedding. That's when I knew for sure. Vanessa never really respected me. She tolerated my career, but she never truly valued it. She accepted me, but she was never proud of me. She wanted a fiancé who fit into her world. Someone she could show off. Someone with a job title that wouldn't require explanation. And that wasn't me. It had never been me. So I replied, not out of anger, not to argue, just to close the chapter. "I appreciate the message. I wished her the best. I wish you all the best, Vanessa. I really do. But it's better if we both move on." Short. Simple. Final. She didn't respond, and I knew she wouldn't. Because for the first time, there was truly nothing left to say. That was the moment I finally saw things clearly. I deserved better. I deserved someone who didn't just tolerate my dreams, but believed in them. Someone who wouldn't hesitate to introduce me. Someone who wouldn't laugh at my passion, whether we were alone or in a room full of people. And once I accepted that truth, I knew exactly what I had to do next. I packed my bags and left. Our small town had been my comfort zone for too long. I wasn't going to stay there, surrounded by memories of a life that almost happened. For years, I had dreamed about pushing my photography to the next level, to challenge myself and see how far I could really go. And there was only one place I knew I could do that: New York. It was overwhelming. It was expensive. It was everything people warn you about. But for the first time in years, I was making a choice just for me. No compromises. No doubts. No one to prove myself to. I threw myself into work. I said yes to everything: fashion shoots, events, travel gigs, anything that would push me, help me grow, and expand my portfolio. I worked harder than ever, but this time it felt different. This time, I wasn't just trying to make it. I was building something of my own. Months passed, and I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. My name started getting passed around in the right circles. People were noticing my work. And then one day, I got an email that changed everything. A major international photography competition had shortlisted one of my photos. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. I reread the email 3 times to be sure. But it wasn't a mistake. It was real. Out of thousands of entries from around the world, my work had been chosen. And when I finally saw my name listed as the winner, I just sat there staring at the screen. Not because I couldn't believe it, but because deep down I always had. Even when others didn't. Even when Vanessa called my career just fancy selfies for money. Even when I started to doubt myself, wondering if maybe she was right. Now the world saw what I had always known. I was damn good at what I did. I don't know if Vanessa ever saw the news. Maybe she regretted how it ended. Maybe she convinced herself she was right all along. But honestly, I don't care. That chapter is closed. What I do know is this: out of everything I gained after walking away, the biggest win wasn't the award. It wasn't the recognition. It was finally being surrounded by people who truly valued me. People who saw my work for what it was. Art. Not just fancy selfies. And among them was someone new. Someone who didn't just admire what I did. They respected it. Someone who saw me for who I was, and never once made me feel small because of it. Because in the end, respect in a relationship isn't optional. It's non-negotiable. Looking back, I learned something important. The way someone speaks about you in public reflects how they truly see you in private. Vanessa's jokes weren't harmless. They were windows into what she really thought. And I ignored the signs for too long. The truth is, when someone makes fun of your dreams, even if they laugh, even if they say, "I was just joking," you need to listen. Because those jokes, they tell you exactly how they see you. And if they don't respect what you do, they don't respect you. I almost lost myself trying to fit into someone else's idea of success. But choosing self-respect over a relationship that made me feel small, that was the best decision I ever made. So let me ask you, has anyone ever dismissed your passion? Tried to make you feel like your dreams weren't enough? How did you handle it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story hit home for you, tap that like button. It helps more than you know.